Most people will automatically assume that you have an energy deficit, or you have a knowledge deficit, or you have a money deficit that is preventing you from putting the effort and hard work in to achieve your goals. If you can counteract all of those things that I just mentioned, and you can literally just sit down and focus on the work, then you're gonna be extremely successful if you do that consistently. All right, fellas, so I know a lot of you out there watching this video are feeling stuck in your lives. Maybe you're working a job that you don't like, you're in a living situation that is uncomfortable, and you just don't really know what the path forward is, how to get out, and how to reclaim back control and live on your own terms. And I've been there myself. I was a cashier around 4 years ago working at a restaurant just to help pay the bills. I was so broke that I couldn't even afford to buy a car to drive to and from work. I had to walk back and forth in the blistering Florida heat and the Florida sun because I couldn't afford a car, sometimes off of a 14-hour shift. And the same steps that I'm about to outline in this video are the ones that I followed and have led me to where I am today, which is in a much better state. If you want the same things that I want, which is control over your life, freedom, luxury, etc., pay very, very close attention to detail in this video. I'm gonna go through the exact process that I used. For those that don't know, dopamine is a chemical in your brain, and it basically regulates how you're feeling on a day-to-day basis. The more dopamine, the better you feel. The less dopamine, the worse you feel. It is a literal linear correlation between positive energy and negative energy. And unfortunately, the modern addictions and the technology that we use on a day-to-day basis, it lowers our dopamine threshold by inputting micro bits into our brains throughout the day. Say you're scrolling on your phone, you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, whatever social media platform that you prefer, and you see a post that you like and you interact with it. Well, your brain gives you a hit of dopamine every single time that happens. And eventually, the accumulation of days, weeks, months, and years of this process, your baseline threshold for happiness, rather than being normal or above average, is all the way at the bottom, leaving you feeling terrible on the day-to-day basis unless you're actively getting those dopamine hits from indulging in those instant gratification pleasures. And where this really becomes an issue is if you actually want to be successful and you have goals for yourself, which is healthy and it's good, it makes it very difficult to put in the hard work to achieve those goals because all of your happiness and all of your dopamine is derived off of these addictions. The hard work feels even harder when you don't have that dopamine to help you through it. Now, most people will automatically assume that you have an energy deficit, or you have a knowledge deficit, or you have a money deficit that is preventing you from putting the effort and hard work in to achieve your goals. But there's one thing that all of this that I've just mentioned ties back into. It's called focus. Essentially just being able to sit down and do the work for extended periods of time without that feeling of angst, of boredom, of just wanting to get up and do something else, or that distraction of turning on a YouTube video in the middle of a deep work session. If you can counteract all of those things that I just mentioned, and you can literally just sit down and focus on the work like a regular human being, just think of that, that's the regular thing to do, then you're gonna be extremely successful if you do that consistently. The things I'm gonna outline here are gonna be the 4 pillars. This is exactly how you regain that focus and get back to a place where you're able to put in the work. These 4 pillars are going to happen over a 7-day period because ultimately, let's just face reality. We live in a world where it's impossible to avoid all of the modern addictions for our entire lives. Eventually, we're gonna get back to a spot where, okay, like I'm gonna go on Instagram, or okay, I'm gonna play some video games. Like, I don't want you guys to get into that mindset that some of the self-improvement gurus and self-improvement YouTubers out there are saying, where it's basically you need to completely eliminate things forever. I don't feel like that is a viable path based on how our lives are trending and how the world is in today's society. I think a better solution and a better alternative is to limit it for certain periods of time and then slowly introduce it as a secondary option to the work that you need to put in for your goals. All right, pillar number 1, open up your smartphone right now. If you have an iPhone, go to your settings and then go to screen time, and you'll see your daily averages. I don't know if the camera's gonna be able to pick this up, but I have 26 minutes as my daily average, or actually 33 minutes, which is down 84% for the last week. And so what I want you guys to focus on is getting that screen time down below 1 hour a day, and do that consistently. And I know, like, if you're taking a look at your phone and it's 5 hours or 6 hours, it feels like a super daunting task and it's like almost impossible. But there's a couple key things that if you eliminate, it'll become much easier to do. Getting rid of your social media scrolling is gonna be the #1 biggest reason why your screen time is so high. That means no scrolling on Instagram, no going on TikTok, no Snapchat, no Facebook. The only way, and the only reason that you're gonna be using your phone during the 7-day period is to message your friends, family, parents, whatever it is, maybe getting on a call here and there, and checking your email at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. That in and of itself should be much less than an hour a day of screen time, so I'm being very conservative there. But the point is that you eliminate all of those instant gratification, dopamine hit distractions, mainly in the form of social media, but also in the form of games, which moves us to pillar number 2, no video games. I know this is going to be difficult for you out there if you play video games on a daily basis, and maybe that is truly where you find enjoyment and happiness in life. I've been there all throughout middle school, almost all throughout high school. I would come home from school and I would get on the PlayStation, or I would get on my computer and I would just play Call of Duty, or I would play Minecraft, or I'd play some video game, whatever was popular at the time. And that was how I enjoyed life. And for the most part, it's part of the reason why I am who I am today, because I have that experience behind me to give me light and to shed reason into what I'm doing today. The point that I'm making here is that yes, video games can be a great escape, but you cannot build success in your real life if you're escaping from it every day. And what that means is, unfortunately, if you're in a situation like I was years ago, where you're playing games every day and that's the happiness that you find out of life, you just have to suck it up and say, screw it, I have bigger goals than this. My life cannot be limited and it cannot be confined to this box that I've put myself in for happiness. And yes, it is going to be painful, and yes, it's going to suck, and yes, you're gonna have to find new habits to fill that void. But ultimately, if you stick with it, it'll be well worth it in the end. Moving on to pillar number 3. To put this lightly, no adult films. Doing that stuff, pleasuring yourself, can be okay now and then, but if you're doing it consistently, doing it every day, doing it multiple times a day, that's really going to mess with a lot of different chemicals, not just dopamine. It messes with your testosterone as well. So if you're a man watching this video, if you're a young man and you're doing that on a consistent basis, just know that it's lowering your testosterone and it's lowering the chemicals in your brain that allow you to feel good when you put in the work. Every time you go ahead and pleasure yourself, it basically lowers the threshold for motivation for your work just ever so slightly. And again, it's a compound effect thing. It's not like if you do this once, your life is over. It's a threshold basis, meaning if you're at, say, 100% and then you do it once, now you're down to like 95%. Do it again, 90%, 85 continuously down throughout the ranks, so to speak. And the whole point of this detox is to eliminate it for at least 7 days. I know it's difficult to do, especially if you've been, for lack of a better term, addicted to it. What I would just do is I would encourage you to go ahead and take a look at all the other areas of your life that you're reducing for this 7-day period and say, if I can reduce video games, if I can reduce my smartphone time, then why can't I reduce this as well? Am I a pussy? Am I gonna just let this one thing slide because I want it to? No. You stick with it and you go through it, and at the end of the 7-day period, you get a chance to go ahead and do a little bit of a mental deconstruct and figure out what you want to keep and what you don't want to keep. Pillar number 4. I know you guys just are not gonna follow this one to the same level. No YouTube. That means no watching me, no watching anybody else on YouTube for 7 days. I did this exact same detox 3 years ago, and I stopped watching content for a week straight. And it's hard to put into words the feeling that you get at the end of a 7-day period when you haven't consumed any media online. Think of it this way. Your brain is conditioned by the media that you're consuming on a day-to-day basis. And so if you completely eliminate that, the way that your brain is going to function and the chemicals that are going to be within your brain at the end of that 7-day period are going to be completely different than they are at this period of time. And similar to my last pillar, pillar number 3, if you can do all these other things, why not this? For a 7-day period, no YouTube, no watching content online, because remember, you have that distraction for when you're watching work. Oh, let me just watch this YouTube video. It came up on my recommended. It's really interesting. Let me watch this real quick, take a break. No, that's a distraction. That's a cope. And then number two, the dopamine hits that you're getting from watching all of this content on YouTube give you a false sense of reward, making it that much more difficult to put in the effort and put in the hard work for your goals in real life. So no YouTube, no content online. Now, at the end of this 7-day period, you have a direct decision to make. Are you going to go ahead and maximize that sacrifice that you just put in, or are you going to introduce all of those bad habits back into your life? You have to make a decision. You choose one way or the other. My personal preference is to do a bit of a balance, right? What that means is now that you have more focus in your brain, you have a higher dopamine threshold, it makes it much easier to focus and continue those good habits. And so if you put a little bit of extra effort in, also known as going into monk mode, at the end of that 7-day period, and you really focus on those good habits, it's gonna give a snowball effect. Let's say you start meditating at the end of the 7-day period. That's gonna give you momentum, and it's gonna give you more focus and a higher dopamine threshold so that you can go ahead and introduce another good habit, which takes away time from the bad habits that you're doing, which in turn gives you more focus and more dopamine threshold to go ahead and improve upon the good habits, which gives you the motivation to try another good. It's a snowball effect that once you start, it's very easy to get rolling in the right direction, even if it seems like almost impossible from this period of time. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like rating down below. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm. It helps this video get seen by many more people. And leave a comment in the comment section below if you want to go ahead and start a discussion. I'm happy to reply to basically every comment underneath this video. Until next time, good luck and take care.